Good morning. This is Benjamin Boyce, and it appears that the woman who retroactively changed the sexuality or assigned the sexuality of one of her main characters is now being canceled by people who believe or operate under the belief that you can retroactively change your sex after birth. And the woman I'm speaking of is the author of the wildly successful Harry Potter books and movies, plays probably, a TV series once Disney gets a hold of it. And she wrote, J.K. Rowling wrote, just this morning, about 3 hours ago, "Dress however you please. Call yourself whatever you like. Sleep with any consenting adult who will have you. Live your best life in peace and security, but force women out of their jobs for stating that sex is real? Question mark. Hashtag I stand with Maya. Hashtag this is not a drill." Now, she's referring to a court case at the UK Employment Tribunal where a judge ruled that it was okay for a certain employer to fire a certain woman for stating the fact or the belief that sex cannot be changed. Now, I'm going to read a little bit from a write-up by one Dr. Kathleen Stock, who was on my channel about a year ago. She's a UK philosopher and admitted feminist. And she writes, "I am a professor of philosophy employed at a British university in a philosophy department. Today, a UK Employment Tribunal judge ruled that the belief that biological sex is immutable and that it is impossible to change one's sex is, quote, incompatible with human dignity and fundamental rights of others." He writes, quote, "I do not accept the claimant's contention that the Gender Recognition Act produces a mere legal fiction. It provides a right based on the assessment of the various interrelated convention rights for a person to transition in certain circumstances, and thereafter to be treated for all purposes as the being of the sex to which they have transitioned," end quote. Please note, all purposes. The judge has therefore apparently ruled that there are no contexts whatsoever in which it may be permissibly denied that a person with a gender recognition certificate is the sex they say they are. He also says in his ruling that there is, quote, significant scientific evidence, end quote, that one's biological sex can be changed, erroneously citing intersex people as of relevance to the facts of social transition. This judge has concluded that nothing illegal happened when Maya Forstarter, pardon if I'm mispronouncing that, lost employment at the Center for Global Development for stating these beliefs. The precedent is now set, and a message sent to UK employees: don't express the view that people can't change sex. Your job will not be protected if you do. That ruling is something that I would like to dive into. Hopefully I will get somebody on my channel and we can interview and discuss it at length, because there's certain interesting things about contending philosophical beliefs and where those beliefs butt up against and challenge other people's rights. And the question that I find fascinating is that at what point does equality mean that the government sides on behalf of one group at the expense of other groups? It's not, maybe it's not a zero-sum game, but in some cases it might be. But that's a whole other issue. The interesting thing for me about this is that how do you cancel J.K. Rowling? How do you go after somebody of that stature, at least just monetarily and numerically speaking, in her, recognition? How do you go after her, furthermore, without drawing attention to certain tactics that have been used successfully to silence smaller voices? Now, people that I've had on my channel have been consistently harangued and gone after by and kicked off different platforms for stating these beliefs. And because they were small potatoes, the story didn't really have much traction. I think that what's going to happen here is that a lot of the narcissistic rage that is at the heart of this cancel culture with regards to the gender ideology that's being pushed not only socially, but in these various institutions and being enforced by these different trainings. I have a video I'll be releasing either later today or tomorrow that speaks about a trans person's view of these different trainings. But what happens when that narcissistic rage and that brute force cancellation, that very, in certain cases, very vulgar exertion of people's rights being violated because other people's views are wrong. How do you hide that once it gets thrown at somebody of J.K. Rowling's stature? And will this perhaps be a turning point in this debate, at least to make it a debate again? Because it hasn't been a debate so much as something that you either are on the right side of or the wrong side of. And a lot of nuance has been drained from this conversation. As you can see, if you go through Twitter and you just look up these hashtags about J.K. Rowling right now, you'll see that these people are incapable of separating the rights of an individual to state a fact or to hold a belief in a fact. That is being construed. The belief that men and women are different, that biological sex is real, is being construed as transphobia, is being construed in certain cases as equal to Voldemort, or even worse than Voldemort in some cases. And a lot of really interesting things are going on with this generation that grew up in this magical realm of Harry Potter, believing that you can just become whatever you will through the sheer force of your Patronus. You can just become that, and everybody else will just automatically go along with your belief. So this whole group of individuals who grew up in this magical way of thinking are now butting up against other people with other sets of beliefs, and they want the government to enforce one set of beliefs over others. And how does that actually work out in reality? This will be a turning point. It's also when the Olympics come, that'll be another big turning point. There's little things that don't really matter, that people will concede your pronouns. People will allow you into certain spaces. But once these tactics come to light, once this narcissistic rage becomes the modus operandi or the mode of discourse, I think there's going to be a much bigger backlash than people readily expect, because they've been caught up in their little Tumblr, Twitter bubbles. And once that spills out into the real world,
if they can do it, why not us?
It's going to be some backlash. Not that I'm on the side of the backlash. I'm on the side of let's slow down and look at these issues and suss out the competing claims of rights and fairness so that we can have a society that proceeds towards not necessarily equality, because that's impossible, but at least some certain level of decorum and rationality and basis in reality. So that's my little bit of content for today. I didn't expect this to happen. Let's see what J.K. Rowling ends up saying in response to all the people that are responding to her. They are responding to her with some force, but it's not all one side. There's a lot of people who are, who have been on the other side of the debate, who have been on the other side of the backlash, of the other side of the mob, who are very happy to have somebody of J.K. Rowling's power and podium on their side. Well, okay. That's Benjamin Boyce, and I'm signing off. I'll talk to you hopefully later on. Stay tuned for some awesome interviews, actually with trans people and about this trans issue. Good day.